Dr. Chris Ududu. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening, all. Mr. President of ASUU and officials of ASUU, Permanent Secretary of Education, and the Executive Secretary, the other government officials who are here. You are welcome to this round of meeting, which we earlier scheduled last week. And we know we had to start this late. The ASUU delegation had called earlier on in the day to make apologies that they were a little bit late. And so we are starting now, and we have no doubt that this meeting will be fruitful and hopefully will be a conclusive meeting that will put to rest all the issues in dispute. We have no doubt that at our last meeting, we attended the T's and I's of our agreements, and we are hopeful that this meeting will close the chapter in this imbroglio. If there are one or two areas we'll touch them, but this I hope will be a very short meeting so that we can move on to address other business of both the ministry and the union. So I welcome you again and wish the meeting a very fruitful deliberation. Thank you. That's the problem. You talk so that the press can leave. Yeah, the press can leave.
So we need to remove the meeting too.
Honorable Minister, let me apologize for coming late by our team. We were actually putting some things together for this meeting. The Minister has expressed a very strong hope for this meeting. I will share in that hope and optimism, hoping that some brief remarks that we have concerning where we stopped the other time will be favorably addressed at this meeting. Like what the minister said, we don't expect a long meeting, but we still have to get the final clearance to make final pronouncements this evening. Thank you very much.
So, concluding meeting for you. And I hope we won't last.
They can't come in, the security.
No, they cannot.
They can't come in.
These are media people, I can assure you. Please, who is the head of media? Confirm that only accredited members are here. All right. You need to endorse each page.
Yes, I'm
All right, if you do one, they can do one.
Is this yours?
No, not mine.
Maybe their own paper. He's the president. That's
So, your food.
10. See, I think I read to them. I'll sign up to 10, but bring let me see. I think they charge money for information. No, these are not current ones. Okay. This is not a current version. This is the current one. That's 9, then that's the original.
Yeah, welcome back, gentlemen of the press. As promised you, we told you that when we finish with this technical session, we'll invite you back. And before we started, we were both hopeful that this will be the conclusive meeting to end this conciliation, which arose because of the trade disputes existing between the federal government and the academic staff union of universities, ASUU. And this dispute culminated in a strike that was started on 5th of November. But today, we have trashed out all the 8 contending issues that led to the withdrawal of services by the teachers in our universities. Some of the items have even been implemented. Things like the Nupenco ASUU had collected a certificate for their license, their license for the business of a pension fund administratorship. This certificate was collected on Monday, 28 January. We have also the issue of shortfalls in the Nigerian universities, for which I told you earlier that government had released the sum of 16 billion, 15.384 is for universities, and the others for other tertiary institutions. Shortfall in terms of salaries, and the Vice Chancellors have acknowledged receipt of those funds. We have also trashed out the issue of a committee that will be a standing committee to liaise between state government-owned universities, ASUU, and the federal government on one side through the Federal Ministry of Education. That committee has also been inaugurated 2 weeks ago. Visitation panels have also been constituted and will commence work in March, 2nd of March. And with that, we hope that we will get some sanitization of this university system. The last visitation was done about 10 years ago. And so this government, not only by the prompting of ASUU, but in the spirit of our anti-corruption stance, decided that the visitation panels were necessary so that we can clean up the rot in the midst of our federal universities. And allowances. We have, as a government, released 20 billion for the payment of end allowances to all categories of staff in the university system. And academic allowance, of course, is a large chunk of that release. But government has equally again released or approved an additional 5 billion to make up 25 billion for the payment of these end academic allowances and other allowances in the university system. Revitalization Fund, government again agreed with ASUU that 25 billion will be released in the period of April, May, which is the second quarter of 2019, as a sign of good faith. And subsequently, government will resume full implementation of the MOU, that's the Memorandum of Understanding, entered into in 2009, following the activation of the recommendations of the report of a government stakeholders workshop initiated by Ministry of Education for sustainable funding of education in Nigeria, held 27 to 28 November 2018. We have also managed the issue of some ASUU members in the University of Ilorin, who, despite the fact that they won their court cases, and even though their appointments were terminated, their end allowances were earned. And to that extent, the Ministry of Education have issued instructions to that university that the management should pay up the allowances due to those persons as they were legitimately earned allowances. In the main, I think those are the main issues, but there is the issue of reconstitution of the government renegotiating team. That's the Babalaki committee. It was agreed by both of us, both ASUU and government, that by ILO principles, neither the government nor the union can dictate who is to represent the other party at the negotiating table. It was also further noted that based on the principle of equality of parties in collective bargaining, as a fundamental principle of the ILO, this should be respected by both parties, and we all agree to respect that. However, it was agreed that the renegotiation of the FG and that federal government ASUU agreement, which is the main business of that committee, that the committee should reconvene not later than Monday, 18th of February 2019, and wind up and conclude their work on or before Friday, 29th March 2019. Based on these agreements, we have wished from all these items 1 to 8, there are 8 in numbers. ASUU leadership sitting here have agreed to go back and consult with the organs with a view to suspending the ongoing strike as soon as possible. Thank you. The President will talk to you.
Of the press, the Honorable Minister of Labour and Employment has given a summary of our engagement today. Finally, we have come up with a document which we have signed on behalf of our members. And as we assured the government side, our members are waiting for us this evening, and you will hear from us later today. Thank you very much.
All right, we present some of the documents, signed documents, officially to both parties. Education will give you 3 copies. One for a minister, one for a minister of state, and one for
Yes,
Government President, my pleasure to transmit these documents to you, this signed agreement, and we hope that ASUU will also abide by their part of strike number 4.
We pray that government will not break its promises.
Finance, Accountant General.
I should queue up after him.
You want one for your
All right.
You are the one paying, so better pay. Better pay out.
Hello?
Hello. Hello. Mr. President, we have all media houses.
What? Is that the position?
Yes.
I can see it. Well, this is the text of a press conference by the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASUU, today, Thursday, 7th February 2019, at this venue. Friends and compatriots of the press, on Sunday, 4th November 2018, the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASUU, resumed its suspended strike action, which was conditionally suspended on 14 September 2017. The action of 2017 was suspended following the signing of a Memorandum of Action, MOA, in which the federal government of Nigeria promised to address the contentious issues within a timeline that was to end in October 2017. While announcing the suspension of the nationwide action, however, our union made it categorically clear, I quote, ASUU will not hesitate to review its position should government renege on the signed Memorandum of Action. Predictably, government implemented the MOA in the breach, thereby forcing ASUU to resume the suspended strike action. Comrades and compatriots, as we have always argued, the last thing ASUU members love doing is to cause disruption in smooth intellectual engagements with colleagues, friends, and students right on our university campuses. This has nothing to do with the dubious advertorial of non-disruption of academic calendar by proprietors and administrators of some cash and carry universities and other self-styled enemies of ASUU. Rather, it is about deep-seated pains members of the union undergo to prevent strike actions and equally painful consequences strike situations bring to all who are genuinely averse to the mercantile disposition to university education. Why strike? The question has been asked time and time again. Why does ASUU like embarking on strike action that causes disruption and dislocation in the universities? However, ASUU is strongly convinced that if academics fail to fight the cause of university education, the fate that befell public primary and secondary schools will soon become the lot of the public university system in Nigeria. ASUU's advocacy on the need to stem the continuous slide into rot and decay in public universities since the 1980s has fallen on deaf ears. Our experience as a trade union shows that successive governments in Nigeria always entered into negotiated agreements only to placate those pleading the cause, be it education, health, transportation, employment, or any other issue of meaningful living. This proclivity of the Nigerian ruling class, irrespective of which wing of the insensitive stock they belong, must be continually tracked, engaged, and resisted by all people of goodwill. ASUU's strike action, which started on 4th November 2018, was situated in the context of accumulated records of indifference and lackadaisical attitude of government to negotiated agreements with the union. At our media interaction in University of Lagos on 23rd December 2018, we highlighted the outstanding issues in the crisis to include the following: funding for the revitalization of public universities based on the FGN ASUU Memorandum of Understanding of 2012 and 2013, as well as the MOA of 2017. Reconstruction of the current government team to allow for a leader and chairman of the FG ASUU renegotiating team who has the interests of the nation and the people at heart. Release of the forensic forensic audit report on end academic allowances, EAA, offsetting the outstanding balance of the EAA and mainstreaming of same into the 2018 budget. Payment of all areas of shortfall in all universities that have met the verification requirements of the Presidential Initiative on Continuous Audit, PICA. Provision of a platform by the federal government for ASUU to engage governors on the proliferation of universities, on the funding of university education, and undue interference in the affairs of the universities. Release of PFA operational license to our PFA, that is NUPENCO. And lastly, payment of EAA to loyal ASUU members at the University of Ilorin. A new memorandum of action and our resolution. Today, ASUU has had a total of 10 interactive meetings with representatives of the federal government, which have culminated into a memorandum of action of 2019. Highlights of the MOA include the following. 1. In addition to the 20 billion for 2018, the sum of 25 billion only will be released in April/May 2019, after which government will resume full implementation of the Memorandum of Understanding of 2013. 2. Part payment of the arrears of the earned academic allowances, defraying the balance up to 2018 in 4 tranches within 36 months, and mainstreaming further payments of EAA into the annual budget beginning from 2019 budget. PICA verification and the release of the arrears of salary shortfall at the Federal University of Agriculture, Makurdi, not later than 15th February 2019. Added to that today is the need to pay the shortfall that came out of the PICA verified claim they paid to Federal University, Akure, Futa. That will also be accomplished latest by 15th February. 4. Strengthening the Consultative Committee on State-Owned Universities, inaugurated on Monday, 28 January 2019, to look into the issues of proliferation, underfunding, and governance to consistently deliver on its mandate. 5. Payment of the outstanding EAA arrears of all eligible staff in the University of Ilorin, especially the loyal ASUU members whose appointments were illegally terminated, latest by 15th of February 2019. We have 7th here, but we'll change it to 15th. 6. Acknowledgement and appreciation of government for facilitating the release of the final letter of approval for the granting of operational license to NUPENCO. 7. Visitation to all federal universities will commence tentatively by 11th March 2019. 8. Provision of documented guidelines on procedures and roles of parties in the process of renegotiating FGN-ASUU agreement of 2009, which will commence not later than 18 February and end by March 29, 2019. Comrades and compatriots, based on the initial proposals from government, the union made extensive consultations through its various organs. The final level of consultation was the meeting of the National Executive Council, NEC, of ASUU, which took place on 6th, 7th February 2019. At that meeting, NEC resolved as follows. Following a careful review of the report of engagements with the federal government on proposals for addressing all outstanding issues in the 2013 MOU and 2017 MOA. NEC resolved that the current strike action by the union should be suspended conditionally with effect from 12:01 a.m. on Friday, 8 February 2019. However, should government fail to fulfill its part of the agreement as reflected in the 2019 Memorandum of Action, ASUU will resume its suspended strike action as the union deems necessary. Conclusion. ASUU notes with serious concern the coverts and overroles of some vice-chancellors in the management and application of funds attracted by our union to Nigeria's public universities. Consequently, we condemn in the strongest terms vice-chancellors who have made efforts to undermine and in some cases attempted to break our patriotic struggles for the revitalization of public universities in Nigeria. ASUU will not shy away from taking headlong those vice-chancellors who are reputed for acts of impunity, nepotism, and other forms of conduct which are antithetical to university culture and the progressive development of our universities. Our union will compile all their shenanigans and forward them to relevant authorities for further action. Finally, ASUU acknowledges the understanding and support demonstrated by patriotic Nigerian students and their parents all through the strike period. We equally appreciate the comradely assistance from the Nigeria Labour Congress, represented by the newly re-elected President, Comrade Ayuba Waba, who has stood by us throughout the period of this struggle. We also acknowledge the solidarity of the civil society organizations, especially the Joint Action Front, JAF, and the Education Rights Campaign, and members of the progressive wing of the media who have consistently partnered with us in our mission to rescue Nigerian public universities from imminent collapse. While we put a closure to this phase of the struggle, it is our hope
forever, for the union makes us strong.
Isoleto,
Africa,
Isoleto,
Africa,
Africa,
Isoleto.
I thank you all for listening. Have a great evening.
They have questions.
No, please. Please.